Some women bring light the moment they walk into a room. Others, the light returns the moment they walk out. This isn't bitterness. It isn't revenge. It's clarity earned through time, through mistakes, through nights spent replaying conversations you should have ended sooner. If you've lived long enough, you've seen it for yourself. Not every smile is friendly. Not every gentle voice carries good intent. And not every woman who wants a place in your life deserves access to your time, your energy, or your peace. Stoicism teaches a hard truth many men learn too late. Your life is shaped not only by what you do, but by who you allow close to you. The quality of your thoughts determines the quality of your life, and the company you keep determines how easily those thoughts stay clear or become poisoned. This is not about judging women. It's about discernment. It's about recognizing patterns before they cost you years, confidence, and inner stillness. The first sign you cannot ignore is one that hides behind vulnerability and sympathy, because it feels harmless at first, even noble to tolerate. She is always the victim, always. No matter the story, no matter the setting, no matter the people involved, she is the one who was wronged, misunderstood, betrayed, or held back. At first, it pulls you in. You listen, you empathize. You think maybe life just dealt her a rough hand, and all she needs is someone steady, someone patient, someone like you. That's the hook. But listen closely. Over time, you notice something unsettling. The stories never change in structure, only in characters. Every ex was toxic. Every boss was threatened by her. Every friend eventually turned against her. Accountability never appears in the narrative. Reflection is absent. Growth is nowhere to be found. And slowly, without realizing it, you are assigned a role. You are either the rescuer there to validate her version of reality, or you become the next villain the moment you question it. A man I once knew learned this the hard way. He was calm, grounded, the kind of man who believed understanding could solve most problems. He met a woman who spoke openly about her pain, her past, her betrayals. He admired her honesty. He believed compassion would create stability. But as months passed, he noticed a pattern. Every disagreement ended the same way. If he suggested she take responsibility for anything, even something small, the tone shifted. He was accused of not supporting her, of being just like the others. The relationship became a courtroom where facts didn't matter, only feelings, and he was always on trial. This is where Stoic wisdom cuts through illusion. You cannot save someone who refuses to claim ownership over their own life. A person addicted to victimhood has surrendered their power and will demand that you carry it for them. That weight grows heavier every day. Marcus Aurelius warned that you have power over your own mind, not outside events, and that realization is strength. But the perpetual victim rejects that power. She externalizes everything. Life happens to her. People do things to her. Nothing is ever within her control. And if you stay, you will be expected to absorb the emotional fallout of a life she refuses to govern. The danger isn't just exhaustion. It's contamination. Over time, you begin to question your own perceptions. You soften your boundaries. You apologize to keep the peace. You trade truth for temporary calm. And that is how a man loses himself quietly, not through chaos, but through constant accommodation. Stoicism does not ask you to harden your heart. It asks you to open your eyes. Compassion without boundaries is self-destruction disguised as virtue. You can acknowledge someone's pain without accepting their refusal to grow. You can listen without agreeing. And you can walk away without cruelty when the pattern becomes clear. Peace is not something you negotiate for later. It is something you protect now. If every story she tells positions her as powerless and everyone else as the problem, understand this clearly. You are not hearing vulnerability. You are hearing a warning. The Stoic response is not to argue, not to diagnose, not to rescue. It is to observe, to remain steady, and to decide with reason rather than emotion. Because the man who stays too long trying to save someone from themselves eventually needs saving too. This is where clarity begins. And clarity once gained does not shout. It simply changes where you stand and who you allow close. The second sign reveals itself not through logic but through fatigue. She is addicted to drama, not the occasional emotional moment that comes with being human, but a constant undercurrent of tension that never truly settles. With her calm, never lasts. If life grows quiet, she finds a way to disturb it. If things are stable, she introduces doubt. Peace makes her restless, and stillness feels unbearable. At first, this can be mistaken for passion. She feels deeply. She reacts strongly. She claims intensity is just part of who she is. But over time, you notice something unsettling. Every week brings a new crisis. Every misunderstanding becomes an emergency. Every small issue is inflated until it demands your full attention. You are no longer living your life. You are managing her emotional weather. One moment, everything is fine. The next, you are apologizing for something you didn't realize you did. A comment is misinterpreted. A delay in responding becomes evidence of neglect. A neutral expression is read as rejection, and suddenly you are explaining yourself, defending your intentions, trying to restore balance, while she seems energized by the storm itself. This is not emotional depth. It is emotional dependence on chaos. People who thrive on drama often confuse intensity with meaning. They don't feel alive unless something is wrong. Conflict gives them identity, emotion gives them leverage, and unconsciously they pull others into it to avoid confronting their own inner emptiness. From a Stoic perspective, this behavior follows a simple rule. A person who cannot govern their inner world will try to control the outer one. Seneca warned that uncontrolled emotion clouds judgment and replaces reason with impulse. A woman addicted to drama is not seeking resolution. She is seeking stimulation, and you become the stage upon which that stimulation plays out. The danger is not just the arguments, it's the slow erosion of your inner stillness. You begin to anticipate conflict even on good days. You monitor your words. You rehearse explanations before you speak. You walk on eggshells, hoping to avoid triggering the next emotional surge. Over time, your nervous system stays alert, tense, reactive. This is how a man loses clarity. Not in one dramatic collapse, but in constant emotional vigilance. Stoicism teaches that tranquility is not passive. It is protected. Epictetus reminded us that we are disturbed not by events, but by our judgments about them. And here is the judgment that must be corrected. You are not responsible for regulating another adult's emotions. You are not obligated to engage every time someone invites you into their chaos. Silence can be a response. Distance can be a boundary. Refusal to react can be an act of strength. When you stop feeding the drama, something interesting happens. The storms either intensify briefly or they collapse entirely. Because drama requires participation. It requires an audience. It requires reaction. And when you remain calm, when you do not rush to soothe, explain, or fix the dynamic changes, this is often the moment clarity arrives. Either she learns to self-regulate, or she grows frustrated that her usual tactics no longer work. And that outcome, whichever it is, gives you the answer you need. A Stoic man does not confuse excitement with connection. He does not mistake volatility for love. He values steadiness. He values reason. He values a life where his energy is spent building, not constantly repairing emotional damage. If every interaction leaves you drained, anxious, or second-guessing yourself, that is not chemistry. That is erosion. You do not need to argue your way out of chaos. You simply need to stop living inside it. Observe the pattern. Notice how often conflict appears without necessity. Notice how rarely peace is allowed to remain. Then decide calmly and without resentment whether this is the environment you want your mind to live in. Stoicism is not about enduring unnecessary suffering. It is about choosing the conditions under which your character can remain intact. A man who protects his inner stillness protects everything else that matters. And when drama is constant, stillness cannot survive. The third sign is quieter, more refined, and far more dangerous than open conflict. She controls through guilt, not with shouting, not with threats, but with subtle emotional pressure that makes you doubt yourself every time you choose your own needs. At first, it feels like sensitivity. She seems easily hurt. She reacts strongly to small changes. If you reschedule plans, take time for yourself, or focus on your own responsibilities, her mood shifts. She doesn't accuse you outright. She doesn't demand. She withdraws. She sighs. She grows distant. And suddenly you feel it, that familiar heaviness in your chest, the unspoken message that you've disappointed her. Guilt is powerful because it doesn't feel like control. It feels like conscience. You start asking yourself whether you're being selfish, cold, or inconsiderate. You replay conversations in your head, wondering if you should have handled things differently. And little by little, you begin adjusting your behavior, not because it aligns with your values, but because you want to avoid that feeling. This is how guilt becomes a leash. It doesn't pull sharply. It tightens slowly. One cancelled plan turns into a pattern. One compromise becomes expectation. Soon you are rearranging your schedule, shrinking your priorities, and explaining yourself for choices that never needed justification. You are no longer acting from reason. You are reacting to emotional pressure. And the more you give in, the more the pressure grows. She learns, consciously or not, that guilt works. Stoic philosophy is clear on this point. Freedom begins with self-mastery. Epictetus said that no one is free who is not master of himself. When guilt governs your decisions, you have surrendered that mastery. You are no longer choosing. You are appeasing. A woman who controls through guilt does not want partnership. She wants emotional leverage. Your discomfort becomes her tool. The danger is that this dynamic disguises itself as love. She may say she just misses you, that she only reacts this way because she cares so much. And you want to believe that. But genuine care respects autonomy. It does not punish independence. It does not make you feel responsible for another person's emotional regulation. Healthy connection allows space. Guilt-based control collapses it. Over time, this pattern distorts your sense of self. You hesitate before making decisions. You preemptively explain yourself. You feel anxious, choosing rest, ambition, or solitude. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin living smaller, not because life demands it, but because guilt has trained you to associate self-direction with emotional consequence. Stoicism offers a corrective lens. You are responsible for your intentions and actions, not for managing another adult's emotional reactions. Compassion does not require self-betrayal. Kindness does not demand constant self-sacrifice. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that if something is not right, do not do it, and if it is not true, do not say it. Extend that principle inward. If a choice aligns with your values, you do not need to apologize for it. Boundaries are not punishments, they are statements of clarity. And clarity is what breaks guilt's grip. The moment you stop over-explaining, the moment you act calmly and consistently without emotional justification, the dynamic begins to shift. At first, the guilt may intensify. The silence may grow heavier. The disappointment more visible. This is the test. Many men fail here, mistaking discomfort for wrongdoing. But discomfort is often the price of reclaiming authority over your own life. A Stoic man understands that emotional discomfort is not the same as moral failure. He can sit with it without collapsing into appeasement. He remains respectful but unmoved. He listens but does not bend away from reason. And in doing so, he teaches others how to treat him. Some women adjust when guilt stops working. They learn to communicate directly, to respect boundaries, to meet stability with maturity. Others grow resentful. They escalate, accuse, or withdraw further. Either outcome reveals the truth. And truth, even when uncomfortable, is always preferable to quiet erosion. A relationship sustained by guilt is not built on love. It is built on fear of emotional consequence. Stoicism rejects that foundation entirely. A good life requires freedom of mind, and freedom of mind requires the courage to act without constantly seeking emotional approval. If you feel guilty every time you choose yourself, pay attention. That feeling is not always conscience. Sometimes it is conditioning, and once you see the difference, you regain something essential, the right to live by reason rather than emotional pressure. The fourth sign rarely shows itself during easy days. It appears when life applies pressure. She lacks empathy. And this is not about dramatic cruelty or obvious coldness. It is quieter than that, more revealing. It shows up when you are tired, struggling, grieving, or uncertain, when you need presence rather than solutions, understanding rather than judgment. In those moments, you will feel it immediately. A distance, a subtle impatience, a sense that your pain is inconvenient rather than important. At first, you might excuse it. You tell yourself she's just not good with emotions. Maybe she's stressed. Maybe she doesn't know what to say. But empathy does not require perfect words. It requires attention. It requires the ability to step outside oneself and sit with another person's reality without rushing to redirect the focus back inward. A woman who lacks empathy may listen but only briefly. She may nod, but her mind is elsewhere. You will notice how quickly the conversation returns to her concerns, her plans, her frustrations. Your hardship becomes a footnote in her story. You feel seen for a moment, then forgotten. Over time, this creates a unique kind of loneliness, the kind that exists even when someone is sitting right next to you. A man I once spoke with described it perfectly. He said he had never felt so alone as he did lying awake beside someone who claimed to care about him but could not tolerate his vulnerability. Whenever he spoke about his stress, his grief, or his doubts, she became uncomfortable. She changed the subject. She minimized it. Or worse, she subtly implied that he was being dramatic, weak, or negative, so he stopped talking. Not because the pain went away, but because he learned it had nowhere to land. This is the danger. When empathy is missing, you begin to self-censor. You carry your weight alone. And a relationship that should be a source of strength becomes another place where you must perform, suppress, and endure. Stoic philosophy never taught emotional isolation. It taught emotional responsibility. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to be tolerant with others and strict with himself. But tolerance does not mean accepting emotional neglect as normal. It means seeing reality clearly without resentment. A woman who lacks empathy is not evil, but she is not equipped to walk beside you when life grows heavy, and life will grow heavy. That is guaranteed. Empathy is what allows two people to endure hardship together without one collapsing under the weight of silence. Without it, connection becomes conditional. You are valued only when you are strong, useful, or pleasant. The moment you require care, the bond weakens. And this is not something you can fix by explaining yourself better or becoming easier to be with. Empathy is not a skill you can negotiate into existence. It is a capacity. It either exists or it does not. Stoicism teaches acceptance of what is not attachment to what we wish were true. If someone repeatedly meets your vulnerability with indifference, believe what you are being shown. Do not argue with it. Do not chase depth where none is offered. Observe, adjust, choose accordingly. A Stoic man does not demand empathy, but he does not ignore its absence. He understands that character is revealed not by charm during calm waters, but by presence during storms. If she cannot meet you with sincerity when you are struggling, she will not suddenly grow capable of it later. Time does not create empathy. It only exposes whether it was ever there. The correct response is not anger. It is clarity. You stop expecting emotional nourishment from a place that cannot provide it. You stop offering vulnerability where it is not respected. And if necessary, you step away not as punishment, but as preservation. Peace is not found in forcing connection. It is found in alignment. Stoicism values harmony with reality. And the reality is this: a relationship without empathy will always require you to be less human in order to survive it. That is too high a price. Life is already difficult. You do not need to make it harder by sharing it with someone who cannot hold space for your inner world. Strength does not mean enduring emotional neglect. Strength means recognizing when endurance has turned into self-abandonment. And when you reclaim that awareness, you take another step closer to the calm, grounded life Stoicism points toward. The fifth sign is quieter at first, almost invisible, because it wears a socially acceptable mask. She is obsessed with superficial things, Not in a harmless, occasional way, but in a way that quietly replaces depth with display and character with comparison. At the beginning, it may even seem motivating. She likes nice places, polished appearances, status, attention. You tell yourself that ambition is not a flaw, that enjoying quality is part of life, and that is true. But this is not about appreciating beauty or comfort. This is about defining worth through externals and measuring human value by what can be seen, counted, or admired by others. Over time, you will notice how often conversations drift toward appearances, money, social ranking, who has more, who looks better, who is winning in the public eye. Achievements are not discussed for meaning but for image. Experiences are not valued for growth but for how they appear to others. Even people become accessories, useful insofar as they elevate status or provide validation. And slowly, without any dramatic conflict, you begin to feel evaluated rather than accepted. You are not asked who you are becoming but what you can provide, display, or upgrade. This kind of obsession creates constant pressure. Nothing is ever enough because comparison has no finish line. There is always someone richer, more admired, more visible. And when a person builds their identity on external markers, satisfaction becomes impossible. The moment one desire is met, another replaces it. The relationship begins to feel transactional. You sense that love is conditional, tied to performance, image, and outcomes, rather than values and character. The Stoics warned explicitly against this trap. They understood that externals are unstable and therefore incapable of providing peace. Marcus Aurelius referred to them as indifferent things, not because they do not exist, but because they do not define a good life. A life anchored to appearances is fragile because appearances are always at the mercy of chance. Wealth fluctuates, status fades, beauty changes, attention moves on. When someone cannot see beyond those things, they cannot see you fully either. You will notice it in moments that matter. When you are proud of something internal, discipline, restraint, integrity, perseverance, it barely registers. But a visible success draws immediate interest. When life slows down, when progress becomes quiet and internal, the connection weakens. There is impatience, restlessness, dissatisfaction. A man once described it as feeling like he was constantly auditioning for his own relationship, always needing to prove value, always one step away from not being enough. That is not partnership, that is performance. Stoicism teaches a radically different metric for worth. Seneca wrote that poverty is not having little, but craving more. A person obsessed with superficial things is always poor in this sense, because desire has replaced discernment. They do not ask whether something is good, only whether it is impressive. They do not seek peace, only stimulation. And if you attach your life to that orientation, you will be pulled into the same endless chase. Not because you want it, but because resisting it becomes exhausting. You begin to compromise quietly. You delay what matters to you. You stretch yourself thin, trying to meet expectations that shift constantly. And the most dangerous part is that this erosion feels normal while it is happening. Only later do you realize how much energy, clarity, and self-respect it consumed. Stoic clarity cuts through this immediately. It asks one simple question: does this bring me closer to virtue or further from it? Not wealth, not admiration, not applause. Virtue, character, inner alignment. A woman who cannot look past surfaces will never truly understand a man committed to inner work. She will misinterpret calm as boredom, restraint as lack of ambition, and depth as something invisible and therefore unimportant. This is not a flaw you can correct through explanation. Values are revealed through attention. If her attention is consistently pulled outward, no amount of patience will redirect it inward. The Stoic response is not contempt or judgment. It is assessment. You observe patterns without resentment. You note what is rewarded and what is ignored, and then you decide whether remaining there supports the life you are trying to build. Stoicism does not demand that everyone live the same way. It demands that you live in accordance with your nature and principles. If your peace is repeatedly disturbed by comparison, consumption, and external pressure, the environment is wrong for you, and staying will not make you stronger. It will only make you quieter and more divided inside. A Stoic man values simplicity, not because it is ascetic, but because it is stable. He knows that a life built on surfaces collapses under stress, while a life built on character holds. If you find yourself with someone who cannot see beyond appearances, do not argue with it. Do not try to teach it. Simply recognize that alignment matters more than attraction. Walk away, if needed, not because she is wrong, but because the path you are on does not lead where you are going. Peace is not found in having more, it is found in needing less. And the right companion understands that instinctively. The sixth sign reveals itself not in chaos, but in small, everyday disagreements that should be simple, brief, and forgettable, yet somehow never are. She cannot admit she is wrong. Not occasionally, not when emotions are high, but as a pattern woven into her character. At first, it looks like confidence. She speaks with certainty. She defends her position firmly. You may even admire her strength of opinion, but over time you notice something unsettling. No matter the situation, no matter the evidence, no matter how calmly or clearly you explain yourself, the outcome is always the same. She is right. And if she cannot be right on facts, she will change the battlefield entirely. What began as a discussion about actions or decisions suddenly becomes about your tone, your intent, or how you made her feel. The original issue disappears. Accountability dissolves. You are no longer resolving a problem. You are navigating a maze designed to exhaust you until you give up. This is not strength. This is fragility disguised as certainty. A person who cannot admit fault is not protecting truth. They are protecting a fragile self-image that cannot tolerate imperfection. Psychologically, admitting wrong feels like a threat to identity. To her, being mistaken is not a moment of learning, it is an attack on her worth. And so she defends herself relentlessly, not against you, but against the discomfort of self-examination. The cost of this is always paid by the relationship. You begin to feel that reason has no place. That honesty is risky. That bringing up issues only leads to emotional escalation or distortion. Over time, you stop speaking freely. You choose silence not because you agree, but because it is easier than being pulled into another circular argument where truth is optional and victory is everything. This creates a quiet imbalance. One person carries responsibility for clarity, restraint, and repair, while the other carries none. You become the one who apologizes to restore peace, even when you did not cause the problem. You become the one who explains, reassures, and softens reality to avoid conflict. And slowly, without realizing it, you are trained to doubt your own perspective. This is not partnership. This is erosion. The Stoics saw this clearly. Marcus Aurelius wrote that if someone can show him he is mistaken, he will gladly change because he seeks truth, not victory. That single sentence separates wisdom from pride. The pursuit of truth requires humility. The pursuit of being right requires control. A person who refuses to admit fault has chosen control over growth. And growth cannot occur where humility is absent. A relationship built on that foundation stagnates. Mistakes are never integrated. Lessons are never learned. The same conflicts repeat in different forms year after year because nothing is ever resolved at the root. Worse still, emotional safety disappears. You learn that honesty leads to punishment, not understanding. That disagreement leads to distance, not dialogue. And when a man cannot speak freely without preparing for backlash, he is no longer in a relationship of equals. He is managing a dynamic. Stoicism does not demand perfection from others. It demands clarity from yourself. You observe how someone responds to being wrong because that response tells you everything about their capacity for truth, intimacy, and growth. A woman who can say, "I was wrong," even quietly, even imperfectly, is showing strength. She is choosing truth over ego. A woman who cannot do this is not defending herself. She is imprisoning herself in a version of reality where she must always win and therefore never learn. The Stoic response is not argument. It is recognition. You do not need to prove anything. You simply note the pattern. You see how often responsibility is deflected, how often reality is bent, how often resolution is sacrificed for pride. And then you decide whether this environment supports the kind of man you are becoming. Stoicism teaches that peace is built on alignment with reality. When someone consistently resists reality, they will always pull you into conflict with it. Over time, that conflict becomes internal. You begin to question your judgment. You second-guess yourself. You grow quieter. That is the danger. Not the arguments themselves, but what they teach you to suppress. A Stoic man does not need to win debates. He needs to live in truth, and he chooses companions who value truth more than image, understanding more than dominance, and growth more than being right. If she cannot admit fault, she cannot walk beside you. She can only stand in front of you, blocking the path forward. And a life of wisdom cannot be built around someone who refuses to look inward.